What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Off the Couch Boxing. This is the best 1-2 punch in the podcast game right here, man. The hardest hitting boxing podcast in the world right now. We are the gatekeepers. We are the gatekeepers. A la our good buddy and friend of the show, Chop Chop Corley. We're the gatekeepers. Us. I am your host, Rex Ruger, along with the Alexis Arguello puppet.
And I'm your other host, Frank Benji's, back with another episode featuring my drug rub.
Yes, and our guest is already here, and fans are going to be super stoked, man, because we got a legend here, man. Let's get him in here now. Where is he, man? Where is he? My old pal, we'll get him in here. Man is living the life of luxury. Some of us should have it so bad. Or so good as it is.
Hello,
and there he is. What's up, sir?
Sorry, guys. Just trying to set my phone up, and then it just fell over.
Look at this guy. How's it going, man?
Good, good. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm
Where
good.
Are you guys? Where are you?
We're in upstate New York.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. A hop, skip, and a jump from the Boxing Hall of Fame.
Oh, nice.
Right down the road. Right down the road. And for our audience that doesn't know, obviously the great Donny LaLonde, who a lot of people might not know, is the original Golden Boy.
Yeah. I really think a guy named Art Aragon was.
Oh, somebody had it before you even then.
I believe so. Yeah, I heard that.
Oh, okay. So it was Art and then you and then Oscar. Now, when you ever run into Sugar Ray Leonard, man, you know, and you know that you knock a guy down in your professional career, man, you know, because we saw a lot of this covered in the movie The Fighter, where Dickie Eklund may or may not have knocked down Sugar Ray Leonard, but you, in fact, did knock down Sugar Ray Leonard. That's a great feather in your cap, though. I mean, Sugar Ray Leonard, I think a lot of people forget, is, if not one of the greatest, or is the greatest, or one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I mean, you know, honestly, like before the Leonard fight, I tried to kind of convince myself he wasn't one of the greatest of all time. I watched the Hagler fight many times, you know, and I thought, nah, Hagler won that fight. Not that he did enough to win the fight, but Ray couldn't do anything to him, so he was a champion. He should have won the fight. And then I watched it afterwards. I'm like, you know, Ray really won that fight. Just
so that is where you stand on it. That is where you stand on it then, Donnie. You do believe that ultimately when the dust settles that Sugar Ray won that fight.
Marvin gave enough space to the judges to give it to Ray.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's how I feel,
They
too.
didn't really win a fight because there wasn't much of a fight.
Right.
Like when he beat Duran in the rematch.
Right.
But I mean,
Right.
in essence, that's part of his skill level. You know, he makes it
Sure.
like he wants. It's impossible to hit me or hurt me, touch me. You know, it may not be the most exciting thing. We may not like that the most, but you know, it is what it is, I guess. In the end, you know. And then look at accomplishments. A lot of guys have accomplished a lot, you know. So it's hard to say who the one greatest fighter of all time was. Different eras, different training, different finance. I mean, there's so many different things. But Ray's definitely up there with as good a fighter, as great a fighter as there ever was.
Well, Marvin Hagler versus Sugar Ray Leonard is just as hotly debated today in 2023 as it was way back 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not kidding, because we belong to a lot of the boxing groups on Facebook, and we just put it up there. And boy, it is still a fight that really is polarizing and really divides people to this day. It's crazy. It's really 50-50 split right down the middle, too.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, you can watch it. I've watched it many times, as I said, and I honestly had a difficult time deciding who won every time. Like, I mean, I always said Hagler won because he was the champion and Ray didn't do enough to take it from the champion.
Yeah, yeah.
But then you see Hagler just following him around, you know, and Ray totally controlling the pace and context of the fight,
right,
defining it all, you got to give him something for that.
Now, he fought Hagler in 1987, then fought you in 1988. Did you take any of what you saw in the Hagler fight and try to kind of try to come up with a plan where you could avoid some of that? Because what I saw Ray doing a lot was a lot of those shoe shine combos, the last 10 seconds of the rounds really going to work and stealing, I think, a lot of moments in the fight and bedazzling and kind of, razzle and dazzle the judges a lot. Was that something that you took into account?
I think you probably put more thought into that than I did. You got to understand, remember, I was a puncher. I was a light heavyweight champion.
Right.
I knocked out guys that walked around at 180, 190.
Right.
With one punch, till that, I was afraid they weren't going to get up.
Right. No question.
I get punched.
Yes.
So when I'm fighting a guy who's naturally a 147-pounder, I couldn't get past that. I'm just thinking, is this guy crazy? I literally, when Ray got in the ring, this is an honest-to-God story. Honest to God truth. When Ray got in the ring, my manager woke me up. I was sleeping on a massage table in my dressing room. Bob Dylan was the only other one in the room with me. I had his music playing. And then my manager came in to say, Donnie, wake up. You can believe the fight's going to happen because Ray is in the ring. Because right up till the last day, I said, Dave, he's going to wake up tomorrow and just say, what am I doing as a welterweight? Right. Fighting a hard punching light heavyweight. One day he's going to wake up and just say, this is not a good idea. I mean, that's arrogant on my part.
Right. Right.
Respect, But at the time, as a 28-year-old kid who had just destroyed Leslie Stewart in the freaking tropical heat of Trinidad, looking at this welterweight who's trying to weigh 155 pounds.
Right.
I just couldn't see any way that he could win that fight.
Right.
So that's,
And so when you drop him in round 4, what's your mindset? Because that was kind of right at the tail end of the round. Are you thinking at all about coming out the next round and okay, this is where I finished the fight right here, obviously?
I think that's exactly the poignant moment that cost me the fight, was when he went down. I was walking to my neutral corner. I thought to myself, I didn't even hit him clean. Next time I hit him, this fight's over.
Yeah.
And if you notice, before the knockdown and after the knockdown, I fight a completely different style. Because I go from this guy who's got to cut off the old great boxing legend, cut off the ring, make him come to me, leave enough space that he thinks he can get to me.
Right.
And then when that opening comes, land that punch and it's over. That was
right.
It.
Right.
It's all I could think. And then when he went down, my thought was, I didn't even hit him clean and he went down. Next time I hit him, this is over.
Yeah.
So what I did at that point is I stopped controlling the fight with my jab and movement and started following him around, just thinking, go ahead, throw a punch. Give me an opening. This is over.
Right.
And I started waiting. And if you watch the fight, 5th round, 6th round, he started realizing I wasn't doing anything. He started playing around. He started moving around. He started throwing more punches. And I wasn't doing anything. So he did more and more and more of that. Then finally, I think I'm going to say between the 7th and 8th round, I think it was, I realized I got to get back in this fight. I'm letting it slip by. He's not walking into anything.
Right.
You notice the 8th round, it was around the 2.5 minute mark. I caught him a left hook, right hand. And basically, from that point on in the fight, I more or less had control of it. I thought it was over. I literally said to Richard Steele at one point, nobody heard it because I had a mouthpiece. But I said, what the fuck do you want me to do? Kill this old man? Stop the fight.
Yeah.
In the 9th round, when I was hitting him from pillar to post, he was literally all over the ring. And I was just like, what do you want me to do to this guy?
Yeah, I know.
Stupid. I should have knocked him out and then asked.
And were you amazed at Ray's chin, though? Because he did take some hellacious shots from you in that fight, though.
No, he took some good shots, but I honestly can say that I never hit him with the kind of shot I needed to hit him with because he was so good at evading punches, I couldn't hit him exactly in the button where I needed to. Anywhere around here, it would have been over.
Now, you left the game a couple of times and came back. You know, the times that you came back, was it just, you know, was there just, did you just feel like there was still stuff left in the tank? Like what was the impetus for coming back? You know, you left in, you were retired in 89, then you were back in 91, and then, you know, you came back one or two more times too. Did you just feel it wasn't all out of your system?
You know, I would really like to have continued fighting straight through and have never stopped. I only stopped because in the Leonard fight, if you look at the end of the fight, you'll see he hits me with a 2-punch combination. Not his fault, mine. I lift my head and he hits me in the throat. A 2-punch combination. And my larynx, half of my larynx, I don't even say I have a scar here. Half my larynx was crushed. Like instead of being round, it was crushed in half.
Oh.
So I only have half a larynx. So I should not have ever fought after that fight. But I wanted to fight immediately. I signed to fight Dennis Andres right away. I was going to fight him in February. The next February, I have the contract right here somewhere. I just saw.
Now you also, and now you also.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, he does have it too.
This is the Trump Plaza.
Trump Plaza.
With Leonard, I'm sorry, me versus Dennis Andres. So that was going to be in February of '89.
Yeah.
In the comebacks, you had a long run. It looked like that. I saw. I went back. I tried to find a tape of you versus Kevin Pompey because I saw that was a draw, and I feel like you had a long run of wins, and there was that one hiccup of that draw in the middle, and I was kind of curious if that slowed the momentum, or if you just, you know, or what you felt about that fight, because I really wanted to watch it and see what I thought about it and who I thought won, but I couldn't find any tape of it.
Well, please, if you find a tape, call me, tell me, we'll watch it together for the first time.
Definitely.
I honestly don't remember.
We'll find it.
I don't remember a second of that fight. Not 1 second. On the way to the fight, stupidly, I was involved with the promotional company promoting that fight. Interbox. They're out of Montreal. We did the first show in New York. And yeah, I was from New York. I fought out of New York for 5 years. I knew the fight scene. Why don't I just help with it? You know, yeah, but you're going to fight. Yeah, but that's okay. I can help with, you know. So I was working for the promoter at the time, and I decided to fight again. Every time I got anywhere near a boxing ring, I wanted to fight. So I'm working for Interbox in Montreal. And it's the only job I've had since I was 20 years old, still today. And I worked there for like 6 months. They wouldn't speak English, so I quit and left. But, you know, like, I'm sorry, guys, but you're paying me a lot of money to not listen to me because I can't speak French. They're like, yeah, well, we're in Quebec. You got to speak French. I said, yeah, by the time I learn French, we're going to all be dead. So anyway. So they're going to do a fight in New York. I'm like, I want to fight in New York, you know. So we get the fight, the Pompey thing. It's put together, and they're like, well, who's going to bring everybody to the fights? And I'm like, I'll do it. I should, you know. And I'm a maniac driver. I mean, I've really the last few years slowed down. I'm nowhere near as bad as I was. But when I was young, like then, I was a maniac driver. I was the last guy who should have.
Yeah.
But because I felt like it was my responsibility to make sure everybody gets to the event, and I was from there, I knew it. Blah blah blah. Then I'll drive. Well, I don't know how long before, because I can't remember since the accident. I got into an accident, like a very near-death car accident type thing, before getting to the fight on the way there. It was just an intersection. It was like an exchange. Crazy thing happened. I don't even remember it, honestly. But I remember it was an accident. I believe Leroy Neiman or Nimoy, an artist, got in the car with it. Like, I mean, I literally can't remember the day still. So the only thing I remember is being in the dressing room and the commission coming out to me and say, Donnie, you have got to get your gloves on and get in the ring. I said, in the ring? Are you kidding? I'm just sitting here shaking. I can't get in a boxing ring right now. And they said, well, your fight is on. Your opponent's in the ring. You either get in the ring or you'll be disqualified from the New York State Boxing Commission. And I'm thinking, I was just so confused. I didn't even know what to think. I just said, well, I can't get in the ring right now. You not see me? I'm shaking. I was in, what's that called?
Almost like
post
a form of shock,
when you get it,
or like a PTSD type thing.
Yeah, yeah. And so they told me I had to go. So anyway, I went in the ring, but I honestly don't remember from the conversation with the guy till now. I don't remember what happened.
Wow, that's crazy. And so you go from a car accident into a fight.
Second of the fight. The only thing I remember about that night is the guy saying that to me, the commissioner, and at night, sitting up in the stands, like I think probably after my fight, something like that, sitting up in the stands talking to somebody.
So you
That's
were
all I remember about the night.
You were obviously concussed prior to going into the fight.
Right. So I still today don't remember 1 second about it. I would love to know more about the fight, to see it.
That's crazy. Usually you come out of the fight concussed, not go into it concussed.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's very dangerous that the commission let that go through.
Yeah.
Well, pushed it through. I mean, that's the crazy part.
Yeah, that is crazy. And so let's backtrack like a little bit to the go back to the Sugar Ray Leonard fight. Now, and you've been pretty public about this.
Guys, sorry. I'm moving around because my phone's about to run out of battery and I'm having to sit in a different location.
No, that's okay.
So I can plug it in.
Okay. So going back to the Sugar Ray Leonard fight, this has been obviously publicly talked about by you and by him, though. But the whole Teddy Atlas thing, I mean, absolutely crazy. Teddy Atlas, over not being able to coach you, has confessed that he was coming with the intent of killing you. Unbelievable. How does this guy, you know what?
Now you can imagine what kind of nut.
And I feel
kind of a nutcase this is, right?
I feel like we've seen other instances though, like where this Teddy Atlas, can get a bit unhinged. I mean, he fired a gun. I know he's protecting his niece, but he fired a gun near Mike Tyson. This pops out. I mean, obviously boxing relationships fall apart. People change trainers all the time. I mean, why were you specifically in his crosshairs? I'm sure he's been dropped by other fighters before. I know he was going to make a lot of money if he stayed on and trained you for the Sugar Ray Leonard fight. He did lose a lot of money or whatever. But I mean, I feel like trainers go from boxer to boxer and there's always another gig waiting.
Of course. Trainers, like Teddy trained me for 11 months of a 24-year career.
Yeah.
Professional career. And I actually went backwards fighting with Eddie. If you look at my fights, what happened after Teddy and before Teddy, I was better when I wasn't with Teddy.
Right.
And like you said, and that's not even a knock to Teddy. The fact that is that fighters and trainers either have a chemistry that works or they don't.
Sure.
And if they do, you have like Muhammad Ali, Angelo Dundee.
Right.
Tommy Hearns, Emmanuel Stewart.
Just to learn something.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, the trainers that really helped me in my career were, which is what I said in my rebuttal to that ridiculous conversation that he had in his book about us, is that like there's two guys in Winnipeg, Canada. One was the guy's name was Al Sparks. He fought Carl Bobo Olsen, former middleweight champion. Al was a Commonwealth champion, but not a world champion. But anyway, he spent a lot of time with me and taught me a lot. And another guy named Peter Piper in Winnipeg, he's really the one who taught me how to throw a right hand like I could. And without it, I would never have been a fighter because it was the only thing I had at one point. I was so injured in the rest of my body, all I had was a right hand. And I was able to accomplish what I did with just the right hand, because of Pete Piper. Bobby Cassidy, Sr., who fought, number one in the world, was number one in the world, never did get a world title shot, but he was my trainer after Teddy, and he taught me a lot, and I learned a lot from Bobby. And and then he's who I was with when I won the world title. And then shortly right after that, he got put in jail for a real fraud, real bullshit thing. But so I was with Tommy Gallagher when I fought Teddy, Ray. Trying not to make a knock to Tommy, but at the same time speaking my truth is that I don't know that Tommy ever really believed I could win that fight.
Right.
I think Tommy more thought it's a good payday. Let's just make sure we make weight, because there was $1 million per penalty fine.
Oh, hold on. We got frozen there for a minute.
Yep.
If I didn't make weight at the weigh-in, and he didn't want to lose 100 grand per pound. So, I mean, you know, in all honesty, Tommy really thought, let's just get a fight behind us. And I hate to say that because it sounds disrespectful or just underappreciative, but
hold on,
I'm
you're
just
getting
trying
frozen,
to get a
Donnie.
point, which is
go.
that Bobby Cassidy was not with me for the Leonard fight. So Bobby Cassidy was not with me for the Leonard fight, and I really think it could have made a huge difference. Angelo Dundee, after the fight, when I was finally with him, said, Donnie, I was waiting by my phone. I couldn't believe you were not calling me. He left me after the Hagler fight. It was a perfect opportunity. I could have prepared you to fight him, to beat him.
Yeah.
I never even thought of such a thing, you know?
Yeah.
But Teddy was, as I wrote to him, I wrote a rebuttal. And what I called it was part of the whole. Teddy, you were part of my whole. My whole, my career is 24 years as a pro. Trained me for 11 months. You know, I learned some stuff from Teddy, but I don't know. I would struggle to see any of it if you watched the fight. Post Teddy, I could watch him. Say, oh, I learned that from Teddy. Not a lot of it, you know. We just didn't click. So, Teddy, you were fired by my manager, who hired you also.
Right.
Because it was not working. Nothing personal.
Well, on top of that, that was Sugar Ray Leonard wasn't even your first fight after dropping Teddy Atlas.
Not even close.
So it's not like you
just
just dropped him and then went and made a purse.
Exactly. No, and then that would have been different. No, I mean, I didn't even win a world title with Teddy. I didn't win any major fight with Teddy because Dave couldn't put me in major fights because he had too much invested in me to risk because I was getting worse, not better with Teddy. And that's why we had the conversation. That's why Teddy was let go. Psychologically, he broke me down. And he thought that's something he needed to do. Let's go, champ. Shannon Briggs. No. Was it Shannon Briggs? Did he train with Teddy also, right?
I'm wearing the hat. Let's go, champ.
Let's go, champ, on your hat. Who is that? Shannon Briggs, right?
Yeah. That's Briggs. Yeah. Who also I believe his relationship with Teddy went south. Yes. Yes. Yeah, for some reason, Teddy, I think, feels like he's got to be very militant and almost like, almost like a drill sergeant to his fighters.
And that might work for some people. It just doesn't for me.
Right.
I didn't join the army for
right.
I didn't want to be browbeat.
Right.
Kill people, innocent people.
And now growing up in Canada, I read that you played a lot of hockey and you separated your left shoulder a lot. You feel like that was something that it all impinged on your fighting career?
Well, it had a huge effect on my fighting career. At one time, when I won the Canadian title in 1983, about 4 months before that, I had my second surgery. When they and my arm literally, like, you're supposed to hold your arm, you hold your hand up like this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to hold the phone far enough away. I can show you a fight. I could show you a fight. My arm was like this. That was my jab. My wrist wasn't even straight, and my elbow was straight out like that because I couldn't do this. And then it was just slowly over the years, over time, I worked through deep tissue massage to create an opening where I could hold it almost normal by the end of my career. I'm talking about when I was 40. I had work done on it when I was in my 30s, trying to make it better for boxing. So no, I had an enormous disadvantage with my left shoulder being on an angle which prevented me from throwing a proper jab or a proper hook or a proper uppercut. So my left hand was more of a distraction. Yeah. My right hand was how to put people away, right?
Now, I like when you talk about the deep tissue massage because, and I don't know if you're still doing this, but are you still involved with the TKOOO thing and like the preventative and like the preventive medicine and the whole kind of holistic approach to the treatment of fighters' ailments after their careers?
Yes, actually, my daughter has taken it up. She did an event recently in New York. She called it a Champions exhibition. We had Mark Finks there, Vinny Pazienza, Byron Barkley, Junior Jones. A bunch of guys came, and they did a bunch of art. And the idea is for the art to be sold and the money to go to the fighters, or go to WBC Cares, take care of the fighters, that kind of a thing. So honestly, she's picked it up and done more with it than I have. And it's not out of lack of interest. It was just our life kind of went a different direction right after I started the initiative. And I tried to, I wanted to do a whole lot more and focus a whole lot more on helping fighters. And I got caught up in my own life, just trying to keep my own head above water. Just, the crash of 2008 just killed everything.
Sure.
Yeah, affected us in a big way. And just before that, also a real slander and defamation element that worked against me and really hurt us. So anyway, so I did not focus the energy on TKO that I would like to have, but I was just in New York. I just met with some people doing phenomenal works like that. We're trying to have another meeting with them and Jill Diamond for the WBC Cares, and my daughter, she's there in New York, and they're trying to continue moving the initial holistic means. Yes.
And where do you stand on because I know it's becoming prevalent with a lot of athletes. Obviously the laws have loosened up on it. I see my son over there fucking sucking down some cannabis. Where do we stand on cannabis in the sporting world? Beneficial?
Well, I smoked pot only once before a fight.
Once before a fight, okay.
Yes, by mistake. Because what happened was I was living up in Winnipeg, Canada, and it was like -30 snowstorm. I was supposed to fight in another town that we were going to fly up to in the morning. So this is like 1978. And I go to the airport. Everybody goes to the airport, but they close the airport because the storm's too bad. So we go home, go to the rec center, go play some hockey. Somebody pulls out some pot in between periods. I puff on it. I get a phone call at the community center. Like never happened ever before. Yeah, but who is it? Oh, it's somebody from the airport. Somebody has rented a private plane and they're flying you up to do the fight. And I couldn't say no. I was too stupid to say no. So I went up there. Oh my God. I don't even know if there, I probably lost the fight. I don't even know if there was a result in that fight. I can't remember anything about it. I remember being on the plane. That's about it.
So obviously we'll agree that maybe prior to a fight, it's not a great idea, but but in the grand scheme of like of all the research that's been done and the medicinal stuff that's popped, the medicinal benefits that have popped up, do you think it has a place now, for boxers after their career?
Well, okay. First of all, we're talking about two different things. I was only really joking, and I should have stayed on point.
No, that's okay. That's still a great story, though.
Yeah, great story.
No, I really think the recreational, from my personal experience, was a detriment to me as an athlete. Now, the CBD for injuries, for recovery, for pain threshold and maintenance, because sometimes you got to train when you're in pain. I can only see it being very positive and very beneficial. I have learned a fair amount about cannabinoids and our cannabinoid system in our body, so they all work synchronistically, and there's a lot of very definite positive impact to the human body by putting CBDs in it. So I have no qualms about that whatsoever. But there's a fine line between that being good for you and thinking because that's good for you, smoking's okay, and it's not. It does not enhance, the idea that it's a substance you're not allowed to use for sports certainly does not enhance your ability. But I would say. I don't
right.
think.
I wouldn't think it would make you. I definitely wouldn't make you think that it would fight better. That's for sure. I don't think going into an athletic contest it would do a whole hell of a lot. But I mean,
No,
you know,
forget fighting as a whole. You're not going to hit a baseball better. You're not going to shoot a basketball better. You're not going to hit a hockey puck better.
It does slow everything down. Yeah, it does. You're not going to get on an airplane and fly and win a fight.
You're not even going to remember the fight.
You're not even going to remember the fight.
I did some sparring with a couple of, well, many very famous boxers. And I don't want to say names because there's no need, but a couple of them smoked. One guy in particular, a lot. And I mean, I don't know. He seemed to do fine. Yeah, no, I don't think it's I don't think there's anything that replaces a totally focused, fine-tuned athlete. You know, like Djokovic is probably the ultimate athlete I've ever seen in the world, you know.
Yeah, amazing.
And yeah, tennis is the kind of sport. I mean, you have to be so refined, you're focused. You know, you're like a golf ball, you're off by a hair and it ends up a mile on the other side of the court, you know.
I'm glad you said that. I'm an avid golfer. I brought my score down 10 strokes in the last couple of years. So
I've
been playing better. Just playing more.
You're playing out the ladies' tees.
That's what it is.
I gotta try that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Hey, I mean, when I go bowling, I use the bumpers. I mean, maybe you call it cheating, but I mean, I want to look good out there. You know, I mean, image is everything.
I fine-tuned my drive. I had a horrible drive for a lot of years. I never had a great setup.
Yeah, that is one of those games that's very precise.
Now I just got to work on when I'm up there on the carpet and I'm putting. That's the problem now.
That's the real mental struggle. Yeah, the short game.
About 4 years ago, I quit golfing just because I've gotten worse instead of better in 30 years. Like, how can I be this bad at something?
Now, when you look back at your career, is there anybody that you wanted to get your hands on that didn't manifest? Any fights that didn't happen where there was a guy that you really wanted?
Roy Jones. That's what my last fight was against Virgil Hill. And the situation was if I won, I got Roy Jones. And that's why that was my main focus of the comeback, was to get Roy Jones for that fight. Not because I don't think Roy Jones is a great fighter, and I don't think Roy Jones could probably have knocked me silly. But I think if I would have landed that right hand 1 or 2 times, it would have been all over. So, you know, that's what I had.
Is there something
I wanted to play with?
Is there something, you know, because Roy, obviously, you know, and for boxing fans that are watching this, or obviously, you know, the true boxing fans know that Roy, certainly a generational talent, a one-of-a-kind guy with a lot of amazing tools. Well, was there something specific that you saw or thought that in Roy that gave you confidence that you could beat him, other than just obviously landing a big right hand?
Well, no, I mean, it was shown in his career that he was vulnerable to a right hand.
Very.
And that's what I see. To see he was so confident with his left and so brave that he would expose himself.
He would leave that lead hand down a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was so skilled, you know, I guess he got away with it and he thought he could. And he did most of his career, you know, until he saw Tarver, right? I think that's what it was. But yeah, no, I would love to have fought Roy Jones. You know, early in my career, I wanted to fight Matthew Saad Muhammad. That was the guy who really made me want to be a fighter, you know. Yeah. When he beat Matt Franklin and Marvin Johnson there that time. Or sorry, he was Matt Franklin.
Was there a guy when you were growing up? Was there a guy when you were growing up that you kind of put up on that pedestal as like, this is the guy, you know, this is my fighter, that, you know, he's the guy that, like, you know, I'm watching all the time, I want to emulate? Like, who is your boxing hero? We get a lot of guys on here that say Muhammad Ali. He seems to be a lot of people's go-to guy.
Ali for me, and Duran.
Yeah.
I consider Duran the greatest fighter of all time.
I have him up there pretty high too. He's pretty amazing. Maybe the greatest boxer of all time.
72 wins, 72-1, avenging the lonely loss. after beating Leonard, a welterweight, when he was started as like a I don't know what he started at, a bantamweight minimum. I mean,
Very
like
light,
118 pounds. Very, very small. You know, to gain that much weight and to fight guys at that. I mean, Marvin Hagler, he fought Hagler 15 rounds.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's not James Toney or Tommy Hearns, but he beat Tommy Hearns twice.
Yes.
Duran fought Barkley like toe-to-toe. You know what I mean? I mean, I know other guys have done great things. Roy Jones going up to heavyweight and beating, the guy who wasn't much of a heavyweight, John Ruiz versus, the greats and all that. But, I mean, what Roy did was great. And, a number of guys have done some amazing things. What Evander Holyfield did is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Tommy Hearns starting at such a small weight and then fighting guys much higher, much bigger later. But I just think Duran, pound for pound, fight for fight, he was a great. I don't know who was better. I mean, yeah, you can argue Archie Moore. Yeah,
there's a lot. Yeah, it's very subjective. It is very subjective. Are there guys now in the sport? Well, first of all, do you actively keep up with the sport now to this day?
I was just going to ask that.
Not obviously not like I did at one time. For example, you can see my television over there. I've been living there for 3 years. The TV got turned on yesterday for the first time in 3 years, other than the day we bought it. So I don't sit here and watch a lot, but so fights I don't see a lot, but I do go to watch them. Like I'll go with friends to go watch or whatever. I went and saw the one just recently. It was terrible. What's his name? Canelo versus
Charlo.
Yeah, Charlo didn't even try to win. The Charlo didn't even show up. He showed up
a real snooze fest.
Yeah. So that was unfortunate.
Are there any guys out there right now, though, of the fighters that you do know out there that are fighting right now, the names that are floating around there, are there any guys that have kind of come on your radar, that you are kind of keeping an eye on their career?
Of course, there's, Terrence Crawford is a great fighter.
Great.
He's definitely our era's, one of the greats of our era, I love Tyson Fury. I love watching him. He's entertaining as hell, I think he's super talented. I mean, for a guy with no fundamental skills, very little fundamental skills, he's getting more now that he's been with the Kronk guy. But anyway, I mean, the guy literally was a world champion. He didn't even know how to throw a straight punch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's
very
just so smart.
Yeah.
He's very, very fun to watch. I have a kid that I advise. And I've been advising. I first managed him back in, I'm going to say, 16. Yeah, actually, late 15 to about 18. And he's undefeated. He's 20. I think he's 21-0, 16 knockouts or 17 knockouts, something like that. Light heavyweight. I think the kid has the capacity to dominate the division and beat the likes of Bivol and Beterbiev and be an all-time great. I think he has that kind of capacity.
What's his name?
Now, when we were together, when he was younger, he's 29 now. His name is Malik Zinad.
Okay.
From Libya. I met him when I was in Malta. Saw him in a gym, fell in love with the kid and said, hey, this kid could be bigger than Muhammad Ali, and started working with him. And he stayed undefeated when we were together. But you know how it is. Young fighters, families of young fighters, people, friends of young fighters, as you start building them up and they start believing they could be the greatest, all of a sudden everybody around them believes they are the greatest. And why aren't they living like the greatest? And where's your new house? Where's your new car? And finally it was like, guess what? Have them manage you. And so I left and, you know, he wanted to do his own thing his way. So he's done it, which he's done a good job. Like I say, still undefeated, and he's world rated in the top 15. We're in conversations right now with one of the top 2 light heavyweight world champions, or only A and B, or C, you would say, WBC and WBA. So it'd be one of those two. And I think, given the right preparation, the kid wins the fight and can have this kind of shocking dominance right now because nobody knows of him.
Wow.
Because he managed himself the last 3-4 years, and he did a good job, but he didn't break through anywhere. So he needs an opportunity like this, and I think we might have it. I literally got it yesterday. So we're in negotiations, we're in discussion. Probably within a week I'll be able to tell you, or hopefully. Right. And if he gets this opportunity, he's the guy I want to speak of, because I'm telling you, the kid is so talented, such an incredible athlete. And now, I mean, he's going to be fighting a freaking monster, monster of all monster, that either one of these guys nobody has ever beat.
Yes. Yeah. That's true. There are some monsters up in light heavyweight. And then you got guys that are kind of on the fringe down in that 168 who could always move up too. David Benavidez. You got a lot of guys who might find their way up to light heavyweight too. So there could be some very interesting fights up there. It's a division that's really on the cusp of getting very exciting.
Right. We've also talked Beterbiev. We've also talked Beterbiev before because we had John Scully on here.
Yeah, Iceman, who trains him. Yeah, or co-trains him. Yeah.
What did you say about Beterbiev and Scully?
Yeah, we've had John Scully on here before. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Great. I love John. He came to camp with me when I was fighting for the world title.
Yeah,
my first world title fight. He is at that time, he was the toughest. You know, it's really hard to say at a certain point, but he was as tough or tougher than any sparring partner I'd ever been in the ring with. It was miserable, just brutal.
And I'll tell you what. And I'll tell you what, he's really out there doing God's work, because like we shipped him off a glove covered with autographs. You know, he's doing something really great out there right now. He's getting boxing memorabilia, and he collects signatures, and he raffles the stuff off on his website, and all the money goes to boxers, you know, who may be behind on the mortgage, who may have medical bills, who may be on hard times or whatever. I mean, you know, it's a thankless sport, and obviously there's not a lot of people that are giving back to it. So what he's doing out there is wonderful. Big shout out to him.
Scully is a superhero to me. I tell him all the time. He really is the champ of all champs, because he spends his whole time, all his time in his life, trying to help other fighters. I just love it. I love it so much. I'm embarrassed. I mean, all of us should help fighters so much more. I ended up down here in Costa Rica. There's really not a whole lot going on around where I am. Yeah. I'm literally in the middle of nowhere. I had a kid from London come last weekend. I went up, drove about 40 minutes to a gym to meet him and train him. I trained him a few times. He had his first amateur fight here. So, I mean, you like to give back what you can when you can. But what Scully's doing is just beyond, far and beyond what anybody else that I know of has done. And I'm so proud of the guy. What a great human being.
Yeah. Now, before we let you get out of here, I got to ask you, you and Tommy Morrison, who wore the blonde mullet better?
You know, the craziest thing is the reason Tommy got that role is because I turned it down.
In Rocky V?
Sylvester Stallone offered me the part in Rocky. You know what? I think it might have been Dolph Lundgren. I can't remember, whichever one it was at that time. The one that Tommy Morrison did. Yeah, it became Tommy Morrison. That's what it was. My wife just reminded me. And so I turned the fight down. So Tommy got it, and they gave him the mullet.
which is probably a good thing, because I just saw Sylvester Stallone on a talk show, and he was ranking the boxing movies, and he says he does not like that one at all. He said it was kind of rushed. He didn't like the script. He didn't like dragging Rocky so far backwards in life, back to the beginning, and losing his fortune and all that stuff. He really doesn't look at that one as one of his favorite ones, you know, in the whole canon of Rocky movies. So he probably dodged the bullet there.
That. Glad to hear that. My kid brother lives in LA. He's a chiropractor and a musician and a doctor. And anyway, I'm just kidding. He's good friends with Frank. So he's always sending me stuff with those guys. And Sly and them, I mean, obviously they did insanely well, and it was the stupidest thing in the world to turn down a Rocky movie. But I thought he wanted me to be a heavyweight. I assumed. I never even asked. Yeah. And I just said, guess what? I don't want to be in a film. I don't want to gain weight. I don't want to do any of that stuff. It's okay. Thank you. Let's go for a beer.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? Type thing. I didn't really get that wasn't going to have to become this big heavyweight. I didn't want to gain,
right,
improper weight and do steroids and all. That's all I kept thinking about he would want me to do. It was so dumb. But anyway, it's dumb to be smart.
Well, and guess what, Donnie? And guess what, Donnie? The cat's out of the bag, man. Everybody loses to Rocky in the end anyway. So that at the end, you got to take an L from Sylvester Stallone, too. I mean, nobody gets to beat Rocky in those movies. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's like you're memorialized on film getting beat by Sylvester Stallone, a guy that's like 5'5".
Yeah.
He's very short.
Like I didn't know that.
but in all seriousness, though, do you regret not doing the movie though?
Yeah, I should have done it. Well, let me say it like this: it was a very foolish thing not to do. If that was what a person wanting to do with their life, at that time in my life, I didn't want to be in movies. I didn't want to be in Hollywood. I didn't want to be famous. I didn't care about any of that stuff. I wanted to have a wife and kids and a normal life.
Right.
And that was my focus. And that's what I ended up doing.
I'm
33 years happily married, 2 beautiful kids. I mean, that was the most important thing in the world to me besides boxing, was to have a successful family, so to speak,
Amen to that.
And I don't think getting into the movies would have really led to that.
Yeah.
Benji's
anything to add over there?
I mean, he's definitely not wrong. Hollywood is a bad business.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we've all learned a lot about what goes on there, a whole lot more than we knew back in my day. But even in my day, it was a weird place. So I'm just glad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it has been a pleasure talking with you, Donnie. I really appreciate you doing this, and hopefully we can keep in touch and we can do it again from time to time. We'd love to have you back.
Anytime. I love your weed sign behind you, the city.
Thank
city
you.
Sign behind you.
Thank you.
My wife and I were there a while back. We drove through weed and spent a bit of time there. It was funny. I've been going through that. We go from Vancouver to LA a lot when we lived in Vancouver. So we would stop.
Is there really a weed?
Name.
Yeah, that's funny. I found out later that there really is a weed city. That's crazy. That's nuts.
Yeah. California. I thought that's where you were. But you said you're in upstate New York. But yeah.
Believe me, this is the time. This is the time of year when you want to be in California, because the cold is starting to settle in here. I'm sure being from Canada. I mean, the winters up here are brutal. Sometimes.
And we're upstate New York, so we're pretty much South Canada.
Yeah, immediately south of Canada.
Almost in Ontario.
Yeah.
You're almost in Ontario. I was born an hour from the Ontario border.
Yeah, beautiful country up there, though.
I was
Beautiful
born an
country.
hour from Detroit. An hour from Detroit.
I know, that's funny. I always think about that. Detroit's right over the river. Yeah. But it has been a pleasure talking to you, man. We always enjoy it, man. And hopefully we can do it again sometime soon, Donnie. Really appreciate it.
Take care, guys. God
bless. You too.
Take care.
Thanks, Donnie. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye. That right there, man, in case you don't know, that man is the former WBC light heavyweight champion circa 1987 to 1988. When, of course, the title reign was derailed by, the great Sugar Ray Leonard. But there's no shame in having your career, or not your career, but your championship reign ended by Sugar Ray Leonard by any means. I mean,
Sugar Ray's one of the best of all time.
Say what you want, man, but I mean, and he's always a great interview, man. I mean, and one of the hardest punchers, one of the more devastating right hands in the business. Let's remind people: 41 wins, 5 losses, 1 draw, 33. As they say, big wins coming by way of knockout.
He did let you know, and did tell us in there though that his left hand was pretty much just a decoy. Wasn't really much coming back.
Well, yeah, because I found this interesting. His left shoulder was separated from years of hockey, he said in an interview that he had done years ago, it was separated some 30+ times. It got to be so separated that he could literally pop it back in himself. So that's definitely going to affect your jab. I mean, he was an orthodox fighter. That's going to affect your jab and your left hook significantly.
All right, well, I think it's about that time that I should quote our great American poet, Gary Busey.
I guess we'll still have to keep doing that. But we do want to let our audience know we are looking for a different tagline to end our show with. Maybe it'll be that. I don't know. It's still in beta right now. It's in utero. It's in the embryonic
we figure
state.
it out. I'm going to quote our great American poet, Gary Busey, by saying that you, Alexis Arguello Puppet, me, Gary Busey, and Donnie Lalonde can all go 15 seconds with anything.
Yeah, and Donnie Lalonde can, man. Dynamite in that fucking right hand, man. So great to be joined by him. Golden Boy that is the predecessor of what modern boxing fans know as the Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya. But then again, Donnie said there was a fighter before him that was the Golden Boy. So there's been a lot of Golden Boys in the pantheon of boxing, man. But let's not forget Donnie Lalonde was one of the fucking great ones. Dynamite in the right hand, dropped Sugar Ray Leonard in the 4th round of their fight, with barely grazing him in the top of the head. Wanted to come out and finish him in round 5. Could have again finished him. They had a hellacious round fucking 9. Hellacious. Where Donnie, as he said, was beating him pillar to post, and then ultimately got knocked out himself in that round. But a fucking great fight while it lasted, man. You said it all right there from the words from the mouth of the great Gary Busey. And I will end it, for now anyway, with a big giant buzzang.